Good evening. This is the Zach of All Trades coming at you, and tonight we're going to be doing a catfish gumbo recipe. It comes from a southern heritage, southern United States. A lot of French Creole influence on it. A little spicy, lots of fresh veggies in it, and all in all just a hearty little stew, hearty little meal, and hopefully you folks watching it will enjoy it. Catfish is one of my favorite dishes. Favorite things to catch. They're fun, they're relaxing, they're easy to catch. I shouldn't say easy to catch, but they're a relaxing time to spend fishing. Anyway, start of the show here. These beautiful catfish fillets. Previous video I did a couple videos on catching catfish, whatnot. So I will post those links, and if you want to go back and look at those, please feel free to do so. And anyway, this is about as fresh as it can get. I got home, I did a video on what I do, how I cut them up, how I prepare them, how I get them ready to cook. And like I say, I'll post those videos. Basically, I bring them home, clean them up, put them into a Tupperware container, some salt and some lemon juice, and get them marinating. That salt kind of opens them up, allows the lemon juice in there, and gives them just a nice little flavor. Aside from the star of the show here, in this bowl here, I've got a cup of white onion, coarsely chopped, 1 cup of green bell pepper, coarsely chopped, and traditionally celery is more used in a gumbo. As I've mentioned in other videos, I'm not a fan of celery, not big on the taste of it, so I'm substituting it with corn. I'm in the Midwest here. Corn goes with any dish we cook, so I'm going to go ahead and throw some sweet corn in there, 1 cup, and then I've got about 2 cloves of garlic, minced. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sweat this off first, and then we'll start building up our broth and our soup, and then towards the end the catfish will go in. In here I've got the spices, a teaspoon of salt, about a ½ teaspoon crushed red pepper, a couple bay leaves, ½ teaspoon of dried oregano, and then I went ahead and did a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I may add more to that as it goes on, just kind of depending on where the spice level is. I also forgot to mention I did 2 small jalapenos. I deveined them and de-seeded them and coarsely chopped those and added them to the veggies. With jalapenos, the more seeds you leave in them, the hotter they're going to be, so feel free to do that to your spice level. Also, I recommend set the seeds aside, and if it's not quite as spicy as you like it when it gets done, stir some of those seeds in there and kind of let them come to heat and give it a try then. That's an easier way to do it. That way you don't put too many in and then it's too hot and then you end up disliking the dish. Here's some okra, cut okra. Generally I use fresh okra out of the garden, or at least from the market. The market was closed tonight. I wasn't able to get some of the ingredients I completely needed, so I got to go with some frozen okra I had in the fridge. Like I say, I would prefer to use fresh. Same with tomatoes. We're going to use whole tomatoes in the can, and like I say, generally the tomatoes I'd like to use fresh. Market wasn't open and I wasn't able to get some fresh tomatoes, so. And then we're going to go ahead and use 30 ounces of beef broth. So we want about 16 ounces of tomatoes undrained, and about 10 ounces of cut okra, and 30 ounces of beef broth. And I might add some Tabasco sauce to it. Tabasco is a southern, it's actually made in Louisiana, kind of where this dish originates. I might add some more of this towards the end of the meal, or towards the end as it gets done cooking, just depending on the spice level. So Tabasco, any kind of hot sauce, and this dish is very versatile. If there's some different veggies, if you don't like the pepper, for example, do the celery, just play around with it. This is basically just kind of a stew and a sort. And then we'll also be doing some rice. You can do brown or white rice, whatever you prefer. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. Rice is pretty simple. Cook it to what the package says. But when we're done, we'll be serving this over rice, and then have some bread on the side. And it's a phenomenal dish, good hearty dish, and it's fairly simple to make. So anyway, I'm going to reset up here, get the camera on the pot, and we'll begin cooking. We'll start sweating off the veggies. Once they're done, we'll start building it up. So what we got here is just a enamel stock pot. It's going to be able to hold the soup. It'll disperse the heat nice. It's going to be perfect for cooking this gumbo. So what I got in there is I got 4 tablespoons homemade butter, and over the top I just drizzle a little bit of olive oil, help keep them from browning or burning. So we'll go ahead and get this melting a little bit. And I'm going to go about medium heat here. I'm cooking on a gas stove, and we'll just kind of, you can already see that butter loosening up there. And then we will go ahead and just start putting the veggies in. Like I say, we're not trying to add color or caramelize, anything like that, just trying to sweat them down a little bit. They'll finish cooking when we stew it all down. So 1 cup white tomato, 1 cup bell pepper, a couple small jalapenos, seeded and deveined, a cup of corn. Traditionally it would be a cup of celery, but that's kind of and then a couple cloves of minced garlic. And we will just go ahead and gently sweat these down in that nice butter. If you don't like butter, go ahead and do olive oil. Like I said, it's homemade butter. Butter, I think, just gives it a little more flavor. You put a little bit of that olive oil on there, it'll help bring it up to temperature. And at this point too, if you wanted, you could even put a little bit of some salt and pepper on this. But I got all the seasonings already mixed, so I'm gonna wait until these are sweated down to add those. So we'll get these sweating down. I've got the rice started. I got some bread in the oven, and we will get these sweated down and go from there. Alright, so we're getting to the point here where those onions are sweating off real nice. The corn and the peppers. The smell coming out of here is just amazing. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and add our spices now, the tomatoes and the beef broth, and then we'll bring it up to a simmer for about 30 minutes. And after it's simmered for about 30 minutes, then we'll go ahead and add our catfish, our okra, and we will be enjoying this beautiful meal. So, on that can of tomatoes, don't drain it, keep the juices. You can see the juice still in there. Go ahead and dump that in. I extracted the tomatoes, chopped them up, just real coarse, just something to get them kind of broke up. They'll finish breaking down as they simmer. And then, like I say, 30 ounces of good beef broth. I had some stock in the freezer that I forgot to thaw out, so got to do the old store-bought method here, but that's alright. Life goes on. This beautiful palette of spices, teaspoon of salt, a couple bay leaves, teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and if you're not big on the spices, back off on the cayenne, and half teaspoon of oregano, half teaspoon of crushed red. You can also put thyme in this. Just play around with it, whatever you think. I'm going for the spice effect. After all, it is catfish gumbo. There's the tomatoes that were in the can that I chopped up. I'll just get those added in here. Sweated it down, about medium heat, a little over medium. Got those sweated down. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to go ahead and crank the heat up a little bit just to bring this to a simmer, and then I'll back the heat down and let it simmer some more, or simmer for about a half hour. And at that half hour mark, we'll go ahead and add the catfish. I'll get that cut up, and we will go from there. Alright, so we brought it up to a simmer here, or I guess a slow boil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I got the heat on high, I'm going to bring it down right to medium. And at this point, we're just going to let this simmer for about a half hour. And hopefully the camera lens isn't steaming up there, but the smells coming out are amazing out of this. So, half hour, let it simmer, let it reduce a little bit. At that point, we'll be able to add the catfish and then the okra, and we will be indulging ourselves on this. I mean, just look at that colorful little palette there. You got all kinds of nice fresh veggies and that broth. But like I say, 30 minutes, we're going to kind of reduce this broth down. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and cut up these catfish. All told, this recipe calls for about 2 pounds, give or take. You know, just get it as close as you can. If it goes a little over, a little under, that's fine. These were, like I say, just beautiful little catfish fillets here. So anyway, we just want nice little 1-inch pieces. As they cook, they'll shrink up. So just go ahead and cut right across. You know, you would have filleted them off the fish like so. Just take the fillet, there's the middle of the fillet, and just go ahead and cut right across there, and those will give you nice little cooking chunks. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are right at about the 30-minute mark on the simmer here. You can see it's reduced quite a bit. Most of that broth is reduced down, and we're getting to that nice stew point here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our catfish pieces, put them around in there, simmer it at this heat for right at 10 minutes, and then all that's left is adding in the okra there in the last couple minutes, and we will be enjoying this beautiful, beautiful cuisine. And after you add the catfish, you'll give it an initial stir. Make sure you keep the catfish as cold as you can right up until you put it in the pot. But give it an initial stir, and then try to refrain from stirring it as much as possible, because as the fish cooks, it'll become tender and want to break apart. So you don't want to be eating little flakes of catfish. You want to be eating chunks of catfish with this. So we'll just go ahead and kind of lay these in. Get about half of the catfish in. I'll give it a stir, and then we'll put the other half in here. The smell at this moment is just absolutely out of this world. So that there's about half the fish. We'll go ahead and just give it a nice turn over there, get some of those veggies on top, get it incorporated as much as we can. And already you can see it starting to cook there. We'll add the rest here. And like I say, once you get it added in, once it's all in, then go ahead and go about 10 minutes from that point. This is another great recipe to use up little, you know, if you're catching little catfish, or you hook a couple little catfish that you're not able to you know, they end up dying or whatnot. This is a great way to use those up. Little nuggets when you're filleting. If you don't get all the meat in the first go, it's a good way to use up that meat. And you know, maybe a fillet that, like I say, when you're cutting it off, if you don't get a good fillet the first round, a good way to use up that meat. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and give this one more initial stir. And then this is going to simmer. I'm on about medium heat. This is going to go ahead and simmer for another 10 minutes. So the catfish has been simmering in here for 10 minutes now, a couple minutes over actually. And like I said when I was dropping it in there, you don't want to stir this. You don't want to stir it vigorously, because it'll break up the catfish. If you do stir it, which you should a little bit here and there, take the spoon and use the back of the spoon and push it, and that'll keep it from, which if you're using a good stock pot and you got your heat right, it shouldn't be burning to the bottom, but still it's good to give it a good stir. So we're at that 10-minute mark. I'm going to go ahead and add the okra, and we will go for 5 more minutes, let that okra get heated up, And at that point, it'll be time to plate up, and we will be eating our fruits of our labor here. So there goes the 10 ounces of okra. Like I say, generally I use fresh okra, but the neighbor wasn't home and the market was closed, so I wasn't able to obtain fresh okra. But once again, you can see I'm coming around, I'm pushing it with that back of that spoon, and it just kind of allows the ingredients to fall away from it. And if you do come this way, just pull nice and gentle. Don't be doing this or that, or whipping it around, because that'll break up the fish, and we definitely want the fish to be in nice meaty chunks. Just like anything, any kind of stew, if you make stew with beef, you're going to want a nice beefy chunk in there. So we will let this go for another 5 minutes, and it will be meal time. And this smells terrific. And actually, by the smell here, it doesn't seem to quite have the spicy smell that I have, or that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and add about 3-4 dashes of this Tabasco just to start with. And then if it's still not as spicy, when I go ahead and plate up, if I feel I need more, I'll go ahead and add more. So there's a little bit of Tabasco. And also, I found this little treasure in the spice cabinet. This is some Cajun seasoning made by a young gentleman that I knew back when I used to ride Bronx. He was selling this seasoning. He made it. He used to tailgate at rodeos and stuff. Really good kid. Anyway, he made up his own seasoning, his own label, and I don't know why I still have this. I used to put this on pizza all the time, but I'm going to go ahead and just shake a little bit over the top. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is it right here, the final product. And I went ahead and just did some white rice tonight. That's what I had in the cabinet. There's the gumbo on top. You can still see the steam. Smells out of this world. Just perfect. Perfect. Little bread. Whatever bread you want. You don't need the bread, but anyway, let's go ahead and give this a little try. There's a nice little chunk of catfish. You can smell those juices there. Beautiful. Catfish just flakes apart. You see the catfish, that corn just tastes terrific. The okra in there. It's got a nice little spice to it. The catfish is just this is great. Terrific. It's nice and hot. Spice is just about perfect. And I can't think of a more hearty meal to cook with a humble catfish that we pulled out of the lake. Once you're all done, you'll have a little bit of that soup left over. Use the bread to soak that up. Give this a try. Perfect way to cook catfish. I'll be doing a couple other videos on how to prepare catfish. Sorry, this is so dang good. Anyway, I would like to give a quick shout out to a couple friends of mine across the pond. Mr. Ree, Master Butcher, Frustrated Chef, great guy. He's got a YouTube channel, you should check it out, Scott Ree Project. Another friend of mine, Mr. Rooney. He's full of encouragement, great guy, accomplished woodcock hunter, and like I say, they great guys. Give this dish a try. Please like, please subscribe, please comment. Any feedback is welcome. I'll get back to you guys. And please give this dish a try. If you're new to catfishing If you just find some catfish at the store that you buy, any of that, this is a great way to try it. It's a lot of flavors. It's hearty. You could feed a family with this, a couple meals probably. So I like to cook this because it's going to give me a couple meals to eat at lunch for work, and maybe some leftovers, for supper here and there. But like I say, thanks for watching. This has been the Zach of all trades, and I want to leave you with a little note of Cajun. And please forgive me if the pronunciation is a little off, but Creole Gumbo, c'est bon.